move on to another one that people think is controversial. I think this is actually less controversial than the other two somehow. But we got Lamar Jackson pitted up against Justin Herbert.
Yeah, this one was close. Probably the closest one you brought up for me so far. Lamar Jackson has 54-23 career record compared to Herbert's when he's one game under 500. Lamar, the thing he has is his offenses have not been as good on paper as the Chargers have been supposed to, and they usually have a pretty solid offense. He doesn't throw as many interceptions. He only had 1 year where he had over 10 in Lamar. Also doesn't throw the ball as much as Herbert. Lamar's also a rushing threat, probably the best rushing QB to ever play in the NFL. Herbert, like I said, though, he easily has better counting stats as a passer. But when Lamar won MVP, he threw 36 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. But, as much as we talk about Lamar winning, it's mostly just been in the regular season as his teams have been 1-3 in the playoffs. But he has gotten there more, which is true. Herbert's also had the health advantage over Lamar. The last 2 years, he's missed a significant amount of games. Last year, he played 7, 12 the year before. And the year before that, he actually might have got 12 as well. So Lamar's counting stats would be better if he played full seasons more often.
I agree.
No doubt, but I give the slight edge to Justin Herbert, mostly because the health when it comes down to it. And he's just been available more for his teams, and Lamar hasn't necessarily made up for it by winning in the postseason or showing up big time on that type of stage. So I picked Justin Herbert.
Okay. Both teams or both quarterbacks have kind of underperformed playoff-wise. Lamar's gotten there more, lost more. He's got one playoff win compared to Herbert's 0. But in all honesty, when it comes to postseason success, both of these quarterbacks have underperformed. Regular season-wise, and because of that, because both have underperformed in the playoffs, I'm giving the edge to Lamar Jackson because he wins and gets to the playoffs more, right? If you can't win in the playoffs, at least make it, is my kind of motto. And Lamar Jackson, while throwing-wise isn't really necessarily too close, I mean, their completion percentages are pretty high. The volume's definitely leaning more towards Herbert. But Lamar just has more accolades. He's got one more Pro Bowl appearance. He has an All-Pro selection, an MVP, a playoff win. He's clearly more of a threat on the ground. And everyone's argument for Herbert, typically over Lamar, is that he is a significantly better passer. It's a little bit closer than we think. Herbert has accumulated more passing yards already, than Lamar. But both passer ratings for Lamar and Herbert come to 96. So they have the same passer rating. Herbert just does it more. So you can argue because he has the same rating and has more volume, therefore he's better. I can get that. But Lamar Jackson has consistently had less weapons to use. Right? He doesn't have a Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler to throw the ball to. He's had Mark Andrews and who else? You know what I mean? Like, who else has he had to throw to? Let's be honest. So he's backpacked a worse offense than Justin Herbert and has been able to make the playoffs more. So I give the edge to a former MVP, a guy that has his team 5-2 right now, compared to 2-4 in Lamar Jackson, even though, it's a team game, but Lamar has a 70% win percentage. He wins more, and he does about the same with less, at least on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm giving the edge to Lamar Jackson there.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with anything you said, but as I mentioned, for me, it was just the health. The last 3 years, it's kind of been an issue with him, and this year it's a to be determined kind of deal. Herbert's been more available, and it might have to do, a little bit with Lamar's style of play, the fact that he does run the ball. I know he hasn't been rushing as much this year, but he hasn't needed to since he probably has more weapons than he's ever had in his career. But that was basically my only reason for picking Herbert over Lamar when it came down to it.
It's a fair assumption. I think Herbert is a better passer, right? With more volume, he's at the same rating. But Lamar, at least he can get it done in that regular season. I mean, the playoff wise, they both have kind of choked, but at least he can get you to the playoffs. Herbert's only been there once and really sour taste in a lot of people. The big one for me was the Ravens. I was like, okay, who's he going to throw to? Nobody.
I think if he was on the Ravens, I think they would still be a playoff team just because they tend to have better defenses.
True.
And I think he's a good enough QB that even with less weapons, he's still going to be a good, productive player, right? Just because of the fact that he is smart and he doesn't make a lot of big, like, bad decisions. That's why I was like, I think the Ravens one is legit. But, like, I mean, if you go to, like, some of these other teams, like the Eagles, does he put them over the top to win the Super Bowl? Probably not, right? So, yeah, you bring up a good point, though.
So that would be our head-to-head. So recapping, we both went with Joe Burrow over Justin Herbert. We both went with Josh Allen. And we both went with just Jalen Hurts. Where we differentiated was Lamar Jackson. I went with Lamar Jackson. Ryan went with Justin Herbert. Let us know in the comments how you feel about that one. Who would you take in a head-to-head matchup? Or if you're starting a franchise, which quarterback would you rather have? And then with Tua, we both agreed that Justin Herbert has the edge over Tua thus far in their careers. And to recap it off, give me your top, 7 or 8 quarterbacks ranked off the dome right now. Where would you just rank everybody? I know we didn't really prep for this, but where would you rank the top 8 quarterbacks?
Let's see. So for me right now, I'm going with, I think. So the easy one, Patrick Mahomes 1. I like, yep, not really that close. I like, even though the play quite hasn't been there this year, I like Joe Burrow at 2. I like Josh Allen at 3. I like Jalen Hurts at 4. I like actually Justin Herbert at 5. Let's see. I would give Lamar Jackson 6 and Tua 7. That would be my top 7.
Okay. I would go, Mahomes is 1. That's not really close at all. After that, dude, it's a crapshoot for who's number 2. Honestly, you can pick apart. Josh Allen makes too many mistakes. He plays hero ball a little bit too much, and that's why they end up losing most of their games. Joe Burrow has not looked great this year so far. He's off and on, really, and every season he kind of starts slow, So, and then Jalen Hurts has probably the most stacked team out of all the quarterbacks. So it's like, I don't even know who to put it to. If I had to right now, who's playing the best this season, I'm going to go with, I don't know, with probably Jalen Hurts this year.
Oh, okay, for 2.
But over the span of the career, probably Joe Burrow. So right now, Jalen Hurts looks like probably the second best quarterback, even though he had a terrible performance against the Jets. So did Josh Allen. So did everybody else. So did Mahomes, honestly.
That Jets defense is legit.
So for this season, so far, Jalen Hurts is probably the second best quarterback in my opinion. Then it goes Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, 3, 4, however you want to flip-flop that. I go Lamar, 5. Herbert, 6, and then Tua, 7. So that would be my ranking of the top quarterbacks. So Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Tua.